Welcome back, my fellow duplicants. Today I'm going to be focusing on the infectious polluted oxygen vent. Now, there's been several discussions about this down there in the comment section below about, how we can use this, and one person came up with something that I thought was really interesting. And it's based on some of the new equipment we got in the last update. Patrick Moore was talking about how chlorine gas kills stuff inside of a storage box or a water sieve, and we kind of already knew that in the past, but thanks to the new liquid gas reservoirs, you can put them inside of that and then stuff that room full of chlorine and it will kill all the germs inside of that. Absolutely awesome. It's a way of killing the germs because this is the one situation where the gases don't mix. So if you are lucky enough to find an infectious polluted oxygen vent that has not been uncovered yet, you can potentially use this to produce a lot of clean oxygen inside of your base. But we have to find a way to automate the cleaning process of this infectious polluted vent so that we don't end up with a bunch of slime lung, which would be absolutely detrimental to your base. All right, so here's my little test lab here. We got Catalina, Lindsay, and Frankie down here that are going to be helping me out today. See, look at how happy they are. And what I have up here is an infectious polluted oxygen vent that I've pasted in there using my debug tools. So you can see inside of there's a lot of nasty germs. Look at that, you wouldn't want to breathe that. So under the base tab is this cool device called the gas reservoir. So I'm going to go ahead and take that sucker right there. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure to make it out of a gold amalgam so that it has a nice high temperature resistance. We can see that the overheat temperature now is 125 degrees Celsius. The reason I'm doing that, now I don't think it's absolutely necessary that we have a high temperature gas reservoir, but I think it's always just better to be safe than sorry. The actual vent itself is 100 degrees or 99 degrees Celsius in this situation. However, if we look at the output temperature, it's at 60 degrees Celsius, so most things should be just fine. We'll see once we get on over here. All right, so if I connect to this pipe into the inlet of the gas reservoir, what we'll see is we're going to get a whole bunch of gas inside of there. And inside of that, you can see all of that slime lung. Look at that, 117,000 germs. Now, using the sandbox tool, I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of chlorine. I'm gonna make sure I keep that at 0 germs. And I'm not even gonna put that much in there. Let's say, not 500 kilograms, 0.5, so 500 grams. So you can see over here in kind of the natural biome area, you get about 600 grams in this area. There's, almost 1 kilogram per tile over there. So that's roughly about what you get. So I would think that your tank would end up in an area like this that you would dig into. So once this all settles out, you can see it's roughly 600 grams of chlorine. But inside of this tank, you can see the slime lung. And if you click on that and we look at the germs, since it's exposed to chlorine, the half-life is now 11 seconds. As compared to over here, where it's all just polluted oxygen, and you take a look at that, and it doubles every half cycle. So you can see the polluted oxygen inside of this tank, and the germs, they're just getting obliterated. So that didn't take very long at all, and we're just about down to 0 germs. So that confirms exactly what Patrick Moore was talking about over here, as being able to store something inside of a tank and kill it off with chlorine. Now I know what you're thinking. Does that work for liquid as well? Well, if I put a liquid reservoir up here and we just kind of run the experiment, just connect this to that with a little bit of power. Once my duplicates pee on this liquid pump every once in a while, I tell you what, I'll just spawn in a little bit more. And we'll just give it a whole bunch of food poisoning. Look at all that. Just blow it up. Don't need a lot. There. Just a little bit. But look at how nasty this is. Oh, millions of food germs. So you can see inside of this tank, look at that. Lots and lots of germs. And currently, just sitting inside of this vacuum, its doubling time is every 20 cycles. So it's not really doing much of anything. It's just kind of sitting there. If anything, it's going to get worse, though. But it's also getting worse because more and more water is entering that liquid reservoir. We'll kind of see something happen there. So you can see the polluted oxygen over here in the other experiment. That has 0 germs in it now. It's absolutely clean. All right, so I've transported 1,166 kilograms worth of liquid inside of here and it has 2 million germs. just using a touch of chlorine gas. Look at this, just a little bit. Just a little poof. This is only 100 grams of chlorine. Let's see what's happening to the food poisoning inside of this water. Half-life, 11 seconds. Look at that, just getting obliterated. We've killed 1 million of these suckers. We're down to 200,000. That was nearly 2 million. I mean, in no time flat. I haven't even stopped talking. Incredible. We're still not to the point of actually being safe. You got to go a little bit longer than that, but still, I mean, in a fraction of a cycle, you can get all the food poisoning down to a very, very safe level. Or in this case, you could just, you know, destroy it in about one cycle here. Look at that. We're down to now 200 grams, germs or whatever. 100. I mean, now it's like basically nothing. It doesn't really matter. And they're completely gone. So that is an absolute game changer. I mean, if you stop to think about that, you can now store things with the germs inside of them, inside of a container that's exposed to just a little bit of chlorine. Boom, and you kill all the germs. We had to do so many different things like cool it down or liquefy it or whatever beforehand to kill off germs, but now this is super, super easy. However, the liquid reservoir and gas reservoir are kind of high up on the research tree. So if we take a look at the research, what you would need to get to that industrial storage is all the way down here. Look at that. So starts with power regulation and advanced research, and you can see exactly what you go through to get down there, and we're all the way over there. The nice thing is that you do get industrial smart storage here. There is one nice thing about this, and that is that the other sensors that we could potentially use and actually have a use for now, such as the germ sensor, which to date I have not used ever, but now we can actually use that and use that with something that is similar to kind of the previous build I did, which was the fart collector for power. You can actually find, you know, gas that's coming through a door, sense it, and then suck it up and deliver it to that tank, and that's right there, right next to medical research. And then healthcare, which is the liquid pipe germ sensor and the gas pipe germ sensor, which are going to be absolutely necessary for this, is right over here as well. So everything is real close by. Plus we might want the advanced automation in order to do all of the different logic gates that we probably will need to automate this thing, and that's going to be the real challenge here that we're going to tackle next. So you can see there, that's pretty much all. Yeah, I think that's all I need. I take that back. There's one last thing I do need, and that is going to be this liquid shutoff valve. So if we take a look at the research, that's a pretty heavy research tree, but at least we're not kind of all over the place. It's all fairly focused, but it'll take a long time to get up here. Still, totally worth it. So here comes the challenging part. How do I figure out how to monitor the germs inside of this gas reservoir? I don't have a sensor that will do that for me unless it's in line. So my first thought here was to do this sort of trick where we take a pipe out and then we put a gas bridge like this, and then we connect it like that. So what happens when you do that is that the gas always has some place to go thanks to the bridge, and it will continue to cycle around. So you see how that's just running all on its own. We've used this for cooling loops many times to go through something like a cold biome and chill out, and then that gas gets conveyed right back into the basin. It takes zero energy to do it. We're just using the way the game, you know, the pipe system works in the game to move gas around continuously. So let's go ahead and introduce some more polluted oxygen to this. And I think what we're going to end up doing is causing some issues for the system and how much slime lung there actually is in it. Because if we take a look at Patrick Moore's comment here, you can see that you must empty the reservoir before filling it or you'll recontaminate everything inside of it. And you can see that happening right here. So actually if I just disable this building, right, and I disconnect the bridge, let's say we just had it on a valve, all the gas that's inside of here, you know, it has more and more slime lung. So the only real way to kill off this slime lung is to get it to, well, is to stop the flow of germs into it. So we're gonna have to be a little bit more tricky than just circulating everything around. Now for the sensor I'm going to use here is I'm going to use the gas pipe germ sensor. And I'm just going to put that right here. And you can see, is it detecting? Yes or no. I'm just going to throw up a little bit of an automation wire here. And then I'll have a little bit of a power switch. This is pretty easy to see what it's doing. So if it's below and we don't have any germs, then it'll turn off. If it's on, we have germs. It's just a visual indicator of what's going on. So if I say above 100 germs, it's now off, right? So I re-enable this, and we start to introduce more germs. We'll see what this thing does. Yeah, you see the germs are going back up again. If I disable that, and we just let this run for a little while, you can see that the current germs do continue to drop over time. So a continuous circulation of gas, definitely does work to disinfect it. So I'm going to set this to 1 germ, and it's just going to go until this thing is absolutely clean. Okay, so if I replace this little sensor here with a gas shut-off valve, I should be able to get the exact same sequence out of this. I'll need to give it a little bit of power, which is, just fine. I also need to hook it up to the automation wire. So you can see if this is above 1 germ, then actually I want this to be the opposite. If it's below 1 germ, if it's above 1 germ, well, what do I want? Okay, yeah, this is exactly what I want. If it's above 1 germ, this thing is off. And therefore the gas pipe, if it can't go through its first exit, it will then go on over here, which will go to wherever we're going to actually clean the gas. Let's just build some place to do that right here. Okay, so in this room, I just have a high pressure gas vent. And then above that, I'm going to have some airflow tiles. Let's just say I put a couple of spots right there. I have an auto sweeper above that. And then below that, I have a whole bunch of deodorizers. So I just place a little receptacle down there, a loader down where my duplicates can load it, like so. Then just use a conveyor rail to go up onto that. And make sure you plug everything in. Voila. As long as this is set to filtration medium, then we should be all good. So I just need some sand. There you go. Oops. Take that up. And there we go. Allow this to be... Allow manual use. These duplicates now have something to do. They can go ahead and just take some sand, throw it on the rail, and then that'll go up there and be sorted out automatically. Okay, so if we are germless, right? We're going to go past this valve and we're going to come out into this room where it will then be converted from polluted oxygen into clean oxygen. So here comes a bunch of polluted oxygen, and we can see what's going on here. Polluted oxygen, polluted, polluted, polluted. And you can see these deodorizers just working hard. And on this side, all of this nice oxygen. Actually, I think I might get rid of these 2 tiles and just do this number. So only polluted oxygen is down here. Maybe. If I just get rid of the polluted oxygen real quick. So now it's nothing but clean stuff. All right, so let's turn on this pump and see how the system actually runs. All right, so I feel like we're going to run into a problem with too much gas finding its way into this thing, but let's just see what happens first before I go and try to make this thing a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. Okay, so right off the bat here, you can see that the queuing of this gas and that do not allow... what I'm trying to say is it's pretty obvious. You see what's going on there. It's not working. So I'm going to use another gas shutoff right here, and then a not signal over here to flip the true to a false, so that only one of these is available at a time. All right, and then connect to the gas pipe so it can't go past. However, it does build up a little bit of gas right there. I don't know, maybe that isn't worth it. Okay, so right off the bat here, I can see that the current disease is going down over time. However, the amount of gas that's building up inside this reservoir keeps going up because obviously the pump over here continues to run and run and run, bringing in more polluted oxygen with more slime lung. I think the system will jam up here, given enough gas. Yep, And that's exactly what just happened. So, too much gas. It's now bloated. Alright, so I just loaded up a little bit of a previous save here. And I think I've come up with some decent ideas of how to solve these problems. So the second gas shutoff valve, that was a good one. The NOT gate to run here like that. That also works. Just for the sake of, not worrying about it, I'm going to turn that off. And then so one of the changes I'm going to make to the design now is that I have a gas bridge right here. So if the gas slips past the first valve, cannot go through the second valve, it can still recirculate through the system. Okay, so one thing I think I could do here is I could just use yet another gas shutoff valve, and that's going to control the flow into the system. So if I deconstruct all of these gas pipes, that right there controls the inlet. And then the logic behind that is that these two valves would be the same thing. And that way I can keep the pump enabled. I may not need the gas shutoff valve. I might be able to just actually take the automation wire and run it to the pump. But depending on where that pump is, I might actually need that valve. Considering this is going to be in a chlorine box, so it's probably going to be like a remote location over here. And you can't really control where the polluted vent would be, so there's a good chance they're probably not close by. So I'm just gonna pretend like you can't get access to that pump. So you can see here, this is cleaning the gas. It's not doing a great job because it's not staying inside of the gas reservoir. There's not enough gas in this system. So I guess the answer here is, what can I do? A gas pipe element sensor, yeah. So what if I do this number? And then I plug that in. So all I'm looking for is polluted oxygen. And then I'm going to still use the NOT gate here to flip that around. So you can see here it senses a break in the flow and then it adds more gas to the system. But now that it has everything there, the system just keeps running. I might even be able to just simplify this and get rid of this valve altogether. Yeah, I think I can. So I'll get rid of that, I'll get rid of the valve, and then just plug this gas pipe in like this. Yeah, let's clean it up a little bit. Alright, so I have my germ sensor that's right here, and then the gas shutoff valve for that germ sensor is right there next in line. And that works like our filter that we've designed a couple times now for that. That's really efficient. But this time it's using germs. So I just connect that to that and then run power to it. Excellent. And if this is above 1, if it's below 1, there you go, then it will be active. This gas pipe just goes past this guy right there. Then I use a little gas bridge, whoop, just like so. And then the next thing I hook up is just a gas bridge like this, and that should be pretty good. Then I use the gas element sensor right here, again with the NOT gate. Still need that. That's looking for polluted oxygen. That's below 1 germ. And you can see the system is now doing the exact same thing it was last time. Now my original sketch for this idea has an overflow loop. Now the overflow loop would allow me to divert gas to another loop outside of here and shut off the flow into this gas reservoir. And I think what that would do is allow us to fill this gas reservoir, because what we can see is that even though I have this, there's not enough gas inside this reservoir to actually kill off the germs. But if I add just a little bit more to it, I think what we'll find is that these germs will start to reduce down. And yeah, the current disease, you see this gas reservoir is balancing out the amount of slime lung that's inside of here to all of the gas that's rotating around it. So I don't think I need an overflow to fill this thing up the first time. I think all I need is just to make sure that I have enough inside of here so that the contents is not 0. So I think one way I might be able to solve this thing is to just add a longer pipe on the way in so that there's more gas in motion before the sensor down here can disable it. So therefore, I always end up with more than what I actually, will get. So that's like an extra large charge that'll enter the system. Let's see how that works. So you can see here the slime lung is, getting killed off. And now since the slime lung has been completely cleaned, all of the gas inside of this loop is now flowing out of the system. And then more finds its way in. Okay, so now that's going to treat however much slime lung found its way in. But the thing is, this system becomes more and more effective the more gas you can pump into this reservoir. So what I want to do is maximize the amount of charge I can get into the system. So if I take a look at the gas reservoir, that stores 150 kilograms, and then each one of these pipes store 1 kilogram. So I think the trick is to have a larger recirculating loop here than the total charge that I can introduce to it from here. And then to control the flow into that charge and control the flow out of it, if that makes sense. Yes. So I'll need one more valve. So above this, I'm going to place a second gas reservoir, and then it's going to so then its gas shutoff valve will be over here, and that's going to charge the system. Actually, let's be on the left side, so it's a lot closer. So its charge is less than the total capacity down here. So I have just a little bit less capacity up here than I have down here. So that will find its way in, like so. And then if I put a gas valve here, that will shut off the flow into it from the pump, which might be useful, because there's a good chance that I can kill off germs up here as well. Okay, so the NOT gate will go there. It says, hey, don't fill me up. Okay, I'm not going to fill you up. Ooh, okay, here we go. And this right here, so then I run an automation wire between this and that. So that, maybe it's necessary, maybe it isn't. You know what? I don't think it's necessary at all. Actually, I think I could just get rid of all that. Forget it. It was a fun idea for a second there. Animation, go away. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but hey, and that's how you figure this stuff out. You kind of gotta just play with it until you find the answer. Okay, there we go. Gone. Excellent. Plug in just a little bit of power here. Now, you know what? I think I have it. Alrighty, so let's give this system a good old test. Alright, so here's what I got going on. If I do have some chlorine, and I do have a little bit of polluted oxygen above that, and that's actually maintaining the amount of slime lung that's up there. And thank you to everybody that's been subscribing and supporting the channel recently. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for that. But we can see right here that just putting chlorine and polluted oxygen in the same room is not enough to kill off that germ. So you actually have to store it inside of a gas reservoir. So everything we're doing here is actually for a reason. The amount of germs inside of here on the bottom tank is down to 200 and some germs. And we can see that the germs in the top tank continues to go up until the tank itself is actually full. Oh, yeah. That's why I wanted that's why I wanted the valve on the inlet, because I want this thing to force all of its charge down to the bottom tank before letting more in. So there's a mistake in my building. Okay. So the gas shutoff will go in here and start to fill it so long as there isn't gas there. But of course there will be right off the bat because this thing is circulating continuously. So I also want to detect what's right here, and if that goes empty, then I'll turn that off. So there's going to be a combined condition there in order to activate and deactivate this gas shutoff valve. And while that gas shutoff valve is off or on or whatever, it's in a different state, then I want this one to be the opposite, so that I'm not continuing to add more and more to the system. It's starting to get a little bit more interesting now. Here we go. So how do I do that? I think what I want is a memory toggle switch. Ooh. Yeah, buddy. So that is kind of like that one right there. And then I think I throw a knot here, like so. And then on the thingamabobber above that, okay, I throw that. And that is looking for polluted oxygen, right? There we go. And then using the NOT gate once again. Seems to be a lot of NOT gates going around right now. Whatever. Then that is always in the opposite. So if the sequence of this is correct, when this is empty down here, that can become active. And that will stay active until that goes negative. And then therefore that'll reset it or something like that. Because this will flip the switch on. And it'll be on until that flips the switch off. Does that make sense? Maybe? So we're going to continue to fill up here until this is clean. Woo! Yeah, that was getting complicated. Don't worry, I'll sum it up at the end once we figure it out. Oh, okay, good. So we've killed off all the germs down here below. So you can see we've got just basically no germs. I guess there might be a few pockets of germs, but those are just getting kicked back around. And that's going over here to be converted into oxygen. This lack of gas right here flipped the switch on. So now we're dumping the amount of gas I have up here into the system. So the charge is being entered into the cleaning cycle. And that is on despite this thing flicking all over the place. And that's going to remain on because you can see that this sensor here remains active. And since it's active, this is not active. So the switch is up and you can't turn that switch up anymore, right? So the light switch is on. If you keep turning the light switch on, it doesn't turn off. So once that goes negative, and it'll go negative once we run out of gas here, then it'll reset and we'll be able to recharge the upper system. Woo! I'm kind of proud of myself right now. Starting to figure out this automation stuff. It's only taken a few months. But look at this. The polluted oxygen down here is already down to 10 germs. Okay, yes. Did you see what happened there? This went negative, therefore it flicked that switch down, right? So this is just the light switch. It flicked that switch down, and therefore I took the opposite of that to turn this gas pipe thingamabobber on. Whatever, just take a picture of this thing and copy it. So down here, we're checking it and we're seeing, okay, how many germs do we have there? You can see it's 110. We do have about 9,000 some in there, but it's getting killed off very, very quickly. Look at that, 3,000, we're just destroying it. Okay, and this system doesn't jam up because there's more volume down here than there is up there. You can see it's at 124 kilograms as compared to what we have up there. Okay, now we've cleaned all the germs out of this system down there, or we're cleaning up just enough as detected by this guy. And all of that gas is now heading on over here to the left, and we're converting that into nice clean oxygen with some deodorizers at what I might say is actually a pretty decent temperature. Which if you just look at the temperature of this whole system, well, I guess we're kind of absorbing coolness from around us, but it's not like adding a lot of heat. And this is just draining down below, so you can see all that gas is flowing out. Uh-oh. We had a power outage. What happened with the power outage? Okay, so in the case of a power outage, we can no longer get gas out. So unfortunately, we cannot, the gas is clean, but it just doesn't come out of the system. And there we go. We got a little bit more power. The dupes are running on the wheels. Good job. That top system is charging up while the bottom system is, emptying everything. And you can see now that it just has emptied its contents. More polluted oxygen is now being introduced to this. And it's full of germs, so it's just going to build up. Yes, it's working, and it's working perfectly. How awesome is that? So there it goes. We're killing off the germs. The germs are killed off. Now it's pumping out into the base, and then we bring in more. Awesome. Okay, so there's one last thing we can do to make this even more effective. And that's how much we're putting into the system here. So if I just get rid of this real quick, and I put a gas reservoir in line, actually use the gas reservoir fully as it's intended here, just to kind of build up a charge and then deliver it. This system will back up with, we're just going to keep filling it. And what we'll get out of this is 1 kilogram, chunks of air moving through the pipe instead of 500 grams. So we can charge the system much quicker this way, because this pump's just going to keep running even when the system can't take more. Yeah, so check that out. The only problem I have is that I run out of power, and that's probably because I keep using this jukebox. I'll disable that building. No more play. Okay, so what I'm noticing here is well, I'm outpacing my infectious polluted oxygen vent. So I'm processing more than its maximum, which is 239 grams a second. So that's awesome. All right, so just to run through this one last time to show you exactly how it works, we have 2 gas reservoirs. This one builds up a charge, and this one is where the final cleaning is done. For the automation, since there's a lot of automation in this, I have first in line a sensor that is detecting what is in the pipe, what type of gas that is. So polluted oxygen. So when it detects that there's polluted oxygen, it sends a signal out, and I take the knot from that to run a memory toggle. So that's just a light switch, just kind of like what you'd see, and that will activate the switch. So when the switch is active, there's 2 things that I'm running off of this. The pipe gas shutoff valve in, and then the gas shutoff valve out. So I take the knot on the in so that it kind of shuts off the flow to the charging chamber, and I activate the flow out. So that brings in the next amount of gas to the system here. So next to this is a gas element sensor again, and that's looking for polluted oxygen, and what it's looking for is to see if there is no longer gas in that pipe, and if that comes back as being, there's no pipe and there's no gas in that pipe, then it sends the knot of that to the memory toggle here. And what that does is it flips that switch back down so that more gas can find its way into the charging chamber. If we take a look at the cleaning cycle down here, you have a gas pipe germ sensor, and that's just detecting whether or not it is safe to take the gas that's inside of this bottom loop and bring it out of the system to be converted back into oxygen via some deodorizers. So if that is not true, there's just too many germs in it, what it's going to do is it's going to go to a gas bridge, and that gas bridge is just going to loop on over to the end result, and it's just going to keep cycling. You do want to use the gas bridge just like I'm showing here so that it creates a perfect loop. You don't just want to have like an extra spoke or something. As far as power is concerned, you can see that, these just take 10 watts. There's not much to it. And depending on how well you lay this out, if you kind of put things to the side, pretty much power can be just one straight line right there. And you could probably figure out better ways to kind of hide some of this automation behind some other equipment so it doesn't take up as much space. The amount of chlorine inside of this chamber doesn't really matter. You can see that I do have chlorine covering both the top gas reservoir and the bottom gas reservoir. I think that makes the system a little bit faster because while you're storing up a charge, you can, build up more. I guess you can start to kind of pre-clean it, is what I'm getting at there. So there you have it. That's the system. Now there might be other ways of doing this. You could potentially time things out with buffer gates and something like that if you just wanted to create a timed sequence that could potentially just, almost simplify this even further. Since we know that the half-life is roughly 11 seconds. The thing is, depending on how many germs in there, you may not know exactly how much you have to process, but you could potentially use something like buffer gates. Because what that would do is it just bring in, and then this thing would fill up and clean, and then given enough time, you wait for it to go clean, and then you detect, hey, did it become clean or not? You might be able to do some other things, is what I'm trying to get at. But there's the blueprint right there, and I think that that is a very, very useful thing, especially if you want to make use of a infectious polluted oxygen vent. So that's what I'm going to build in my Ultimate Automation Challenge. As you can see, it's automated. Like, there's nothing to it. There you have it. Bunch of oxygen, man. No problem. And you can see that this is all oxygen because everything gets forced past deodorizers. And there's plenty of filtration medium. So what happens, just out of curiosity, if I brush in a bunch of a bunch of the regolith we have up there, which is kind of hot, but actually I could. So I'm going to bring in some regolith. Whoo, there it is. Dig that up, and instead of filtration sand, we can use regolith. And these duplicants will go ahead and throw that inside of there. Now that stuff's kind of hot, but that's something to be a little weary about. But I guess what I'm getting at there is it's a renewable resource because more and more meteor showers will bring in regolith, and you could just dig it up and use it. Although you might have to cool it. So, well, there's usually other geysers out there, liquid geysers, that we can potentially use to cool that down. So I think all in all, this is a very useful system, and I think pretty 100% sure that it would work with the liquid reservoir as well if you just needed to clean polluted water. Yes, a polluted water vent. So I think this exact same system here would work for that guy right there. So you can see just how, oh, look at all those food poisoning germs. So this same setup here should work for the liquid as well. However, I think the system that would run off of, let's say, the lavatories, which would be a very useful way to clean up that, might be a little bit different because that's more of a timed event, especially with the new cycle system that we have here where duplicants only do certain things at certain times, more or less. I think there is definitely room for a part 2 for a very simple system for cleaning up basically water waste from our showers and our lavatories. So I'd like to hear your comments about that down there in the description below. Let me know what you think about this. Hopefully you guys found it somewhat useful or informative or just plain enjoyable. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. Have a great day, guys. Stay awesome. Peace. Brothgar out.